Okay, so Blake Lively just filed a lawsuit against Justin Baldoni, and I want us to talk about it. I think this lawsuit brings up a lot of scary realities about how media works. So Baldoni hired a crisis management team early on in the production of It Ends With Us because of some conflicts that he was having with Blake Lively, and she basically subpoenaed all of those records. The stuff that his production team and this crisis management team were saying was actually insane. He wants to feel like she can be buried. You know we can bury anyone. But you know when we send over documents, we can't send over the work we will or could do because that could get us in a lot of trouble. Then this management team starts writing proposals about hiring contractors to dominate social media through full social account takedowns, threads of theories, and generally working to change the narrative. All of this will most importantly be untraceable. The narrative online is so freaking good, and fans are still sticking up for Justin, and there have literally been no pickup of these 2 articles, which is actually shocking to me. But I see this as a total success, as does Justin. The majority of socials are so pro-Justin, and I don't even agree with half of them, lol. And this one is like awful. Socials are really ramping up in his favor. She must be furious. It's actually sad because it just shows you have people really want to hate on women. I think this moment should be a mental shift in how we engage with media. Most of the feud between Lively and Baldoni and all of the hate that Lively was getting started on TikTok. We often think of TikTok as this platform that can't be influenced because it's just regular people who don't have ulterior motives, but clearly that's not the case. Media companies and crisis management teams were working overtime to bash Blake Lively and highlight anything good that Justin Baldoni was doing. It was regular people posting these videos. Once you push one domino down, the rest of them come crashing. I would open comment sections and it would be like everyone being like, I never liked Blake Lively. I always thought she was a bad person. Is that actually your opinion? Or is media so strong that it changes the memory you have of a person? I'm not saying everyone's perfect, and Blake Lively has been online and sort of like in the public eye long enough where you will find videos and interactions she's had that will reinforce your opinion. That interview Blake Lively had in 2016 where she was kind of being mean to that interviewer. Mind you, that interviewer did the same thing to Amber Heard during the Johnny Depp trial, and Johnny Depp was a client of the same crisis management team that Justin Baldoni hired. It's interesting because I see 2 points here. One is we spend a lot of time on this app thinking about how CNN, Fox News, New York Times are all like biased platforms who are trying to push their own narratives. And now the US government is saying that other countries have special interests that they're imparting on us through TikTok. But I want us to start talking about the special interests that exist within our own nation. Like, is it not horrifying that we can hire someone to make or break someone's career on an app that is theoretically regular everyday people posting? Not only that, we're changing public opinion, disintegrating people's existing memory, causing people to move from like general indifference to actual hatred. I feel like the fears people have associated with TikTok should be more than just about national security. If there are people out there who can coordinate and orchestrate something like this, then what opinions are actually yours and which ones have you been influenced to think? What opinions have been bought and paid for by powerful people that can hire crisis management teams? We need to be way more intentional about media literacy and media engagement.
If you haven't seen it yet, Blake Lively is suing Justin Baldoni for sexual harassment and running a smear campaign against her. They both starred in the movie It Ends With Us, if you were really out of the loop. But I want to say that I think everyone should support and believe Blake Lively in this. And it doesn't have to be a stan competition. It doesn't have to do with anything about how you feel about her, because that shouldn't really be relevant. Nothing that Blake Lively has done, I feel like, could convince anyone that it's like impossible for her to be the victim of like sexual harassment, or for him to just create a toxic work environment. Y'all don't know these people. You especially don't know that man. And to see people acting like all of a sudden they've always loved Justin Baldoni and that they're ready to go to war for him is quite crazy to me. He hired the same crisis PR manager as the pirate who shall not be named. So already off the bat, that's not giving innocent. Because of all the crisis PR managers, why would you pick the one who launched one of the most misogynistic and almost violent hate campaigns against a woman online? So seeing that low-key makes me think when that woman reposted that press thing that she did with Blake Lively from years ago, that journalist reposted that, I'm like, and knowing that that journalist is a fan of the pirate who should not be named, I'm starting to think that maybe that was a little bit more than coincidental. But that's just my tin hat tingling, okay? And it seems almost ridiculous to kind of like include in this the fact that like it doesn't matter if you dislike a woman or not. That doesn't make them less of a victim of something or unbelievable. I don't believe that someone as successful and business savvy as Blake Lively would launch a whole campaign without some substantial evidence. That just doesn't make any fucking sense. And it definitely seems a little weird for people, not just him and his team, but people in themselves, to try to find a logical reason explaining all of the behavior that is like listed in the, like, what was happening behind set. Like, okay, maybe he's asking about her weight because he has to lift her up in his back injury, but some of these other things, there's no way you can find a logical reason for that. Zero. Like, it is kind of weird that this man could make this movie and then, like, all of you guys, like, project all of these thoughts onto him because you find him so hot that you therefore think that he's, like, this perfect man and father and husband and da-da. You don't know him. I don't know. I just heard about this man. I don't know this man. What? And I think with Blake Lively, it's, I don't want to say complicated because it's like, the truth is that the internet does love to run a smear campaign against women, but then part of that smear campaign and reason a lot of people don't like her is because of the plantation ass wedding, and that weird ass blog she had. But it's also just like, that's not necessarily relevant to this. It's not relevant to this. That in no way makes it seem like she's a terrible person, so therefore she can't be sexually harassed or no one can, like, treat her terribly. Those things have, like, I don't want it to be like, oh, well, you have to like Blake Lively. That's not what I'm saying. It's, you should believe Blake Lively because you should believe women. And especially in the state that we're in, we should be believing women. Like, Twitter is acting crazy.
I fear the conversation surrounding Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni may be lacking a little bit of nuance, because it's really important to remember that two things can be true at once. And we've talked about Blake Lively before over here on this page. We have talked about her more so outside of the This Is Us controversy. We've talked about her plantation wedding. We've talked about her working with and defending Woody Allen. We've talked about her hypocrisy when it comes down to child advocacy, then turning around and supporting Balenciaga after their horrible scandal involving children. And while all those things still stand, while we can still be critical of specific behaviors of Blake Lively, at the end of the day, she is still a woman who statistically is at a very high risk of falling victim to a man. A lot of women are saying, you know, everyone has great things to say about Justin Baldoni. No one has a bad word to say about him. Justin Baldoni is still a man, okay? Okay, just because people have heard good things about him doesn't mean that he did not do this. And I did read the lawsuit, and I have a lot of questions about it, but I think that there is a lot of weight in that lawsuit where documentation was signed by both parties, Blake's lawyers, Justin and his PR team's lawyers, agreeing that things had to change on set because of the inappropriate behavior that was going on. And Justin Baldoni and friends would have had to have acknowledged that that behavior happened for them to agree to sign, you know, whatever clause that Blake and her lawyers presented to try to make things more amicable on set. So while we can still hold valid criticisms for Blake Lively, that does not mean that she is exempt from being victimized, and it does not justify her being victimized. Because I have had criticisms of Blake Lively in the past does not mean I do not believe her. I 100% believe her, actually, and I don't think that we should be so quick to give men the benefit of the doubt. Yes, was Blake rude to that reporter in that interview? She was. Was Blake crazy for having a plantation wedding? Absolutely. Was Blake out of pocket for being an advocate for children and then turning around and supporting a brand that exploits children? Absolutely. That's crazy. Are other co-stars who have worked with her in the past who didn't have good experiences, are their thoughts or their experiences invalid? No, absolutely not. But all of those things do not mean that Blake should have to go and be a part of a hostile work environment. That doesn't mean that because Blake has had some character flaws in the past, or maybe still does today, it doesn't mean that she deserved to have any of that behavior put onto her. So let's just make sure we're approaching things with nuance and understand two things can be true at once. But I will say that information that Blake put within that lawsuit is damning. It's damning.
All this stuff coming out about Blake Lively and Justin, with the movie It Ends With Us and the sexual harassment case and all of these things, the only thing that it makes me think of is if there are crisis PR companies that do this kind of thing, can you just imagine people in the world that have real power, that can create any narrative and that own the media, like mainstream media, like the TV news stations and the articles and magazines and like, do you understand the power that people have to make us all think a certain way? This is making me rethink everything. Like, everything that we consume, we have to be so careful, and this is why making sure that you have both sides of the story before you make an assumption, because I'm not gonna lie to you, I was looking at Blake a little funny a few months ago when this was all happening. I was like, what do you mean wear your florals and bring your girls to the theater, as if this movie isn't about DV and grape and all these things? And it seemed comical in comparison to how Justin was going about it, which he was, we believe the survivors, and he's doing things with foundations that do stuff for DV survivors. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the stark contrast was so damning that, and I'm a thinker. Like, I question everything. Like, I always love to research and do things, and that this fooled me. So reading the New York Times article and all of the things, and then Justin being dropped from his from WME, from his talent agency, like, the media and how gullible people are and how easily we intake information and make an assumption or make a decision about people will be our downfall.
The public's response to Blake Lively suing Justin Baldoni is absolutely sickening and makes me just lose faith in humanity. The fact that people can read the lawsuit and see the evidence, which is so clear and so blatantly showing that Justin Baldoni is a sick individual, and these people are still choosing to just bash Blake Lively. This is about the fact that this man orchestrated a PR takedown of this woman because he knew that he acted inappropriately on set. This lawsuit has text message receipts between Justin Baldoni and his PR. His PR team planted things on social media in order to sway public opinion, and Justin even said himself he wanted it to be like what they did to Hailey Bieber. And it all makes sense now because I was reporting on the feud between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni when the film came out, and I was just so shocked at how many people were willing to jump on the Blake Lively hate train. There is no such thing as a perfect victim, and just because somebody is not likable doesn't make them not a victim. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm still seriously so shocked that people are defending this man.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but two things can be true. You can dislike someone as a person and disagree with them fundamentally on how they marketed a film or whatever, and they can also be a victim. I thought we knew in 2024 that there was no such thing as a perfect victim. I'm very confused by what I'm seeing on the internet. Some of y'all are real proud and loud on not believing women, even when they come with receipts and proof. As someone who has dated someone who positioned himself as a feminist that was on women's side and destroyed my mental health and fundamentally took me down one step at a time, I believe her. Because, shocker, some of the worst men position themselves as your ally. It's just not giving girls girl. I'm seeing a lot of women wanting to get picked next for the dodgeball teams.
Watching a lot of people's reaction to this lawsuit, I may have to become a Blake Lively defender, I fear. Because some of y'all, oh my God. And should we be surprised? This is the work of the smear campaign that she was talking about in the lawsuit. Ow. As a Blake Lively, someone who believes her, I do not believe that everybody engaging in criticism of her back in August, we don't need to be shitting on everybody. The information that the general public had was that Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni were having production issues, production disagreements. The people who were criticizing her back in August, mind you, for the marketing tactics of the movie, the wear your florals, the incorporating her hair care brand. Those were all valid criticisms. It's easy in hindsight to say that those people were falling for a smear campaign when we know of the smear campaign today. Who we should be going after are the people who are hearing the harassment claims and not believing her at all.